Hey gang, this is Mike with MrNoFluff.com, and today I'm going to be talking about 3 reasons why new investors fail as a real estate investor. Okay, so 3 reasons why new investors fail. All right, the very first one is the most important one, which is our brains are so powerful that we get in in a trap of just thinking. What does that mean? You're just thinking about the future. You're thinking about what's going to happen 10 steps ahead. You're thinking about what's going to happen 20 steps ahead, and you're at step zero. So you're here and you're thinking in the future what's going to happen here, and that happens to most of my students. They're smart people. Most of them have college degrees, but the problem is that because of our school systems, because the way most of the gurus sell people, they have you educate you so much. So the problem with education is you learn, okay, the more thinking you do because your brain becomes more powerful. And you're learning about real estate and you're thinking, well, how do I fill out a contract? How do I structure a deal? And the problem is that when you're thinking and you go to here and then you start solving this idea, you're starting to think here again. And then you have another question and then you're thinking again. And then you have another question and you're thinking again. And what happens is that you're in a cyclical thought process, which means that you never take action. How do I know? Guess what? I've been there. I've done that. More importantly, now I've been able to train hundreds of students and I see the same human pattern. Our brains are too smart. Our brains are too sophisticated. And they could think about all the what ifs. What if this happens? What if this happens? What if this happens? And the problem is that we never start. We never take the first step. So the 3 major reasons real estate investors fail is number one, too much thinking. Okay. Now learning is an it's like pulling gasoline on fire. It's an accelerant. What does it accelerate? Thought. Learning just makes you think more and more. Where at Mr. No Fluff, okay, for example, my profit sharing coaching or my abundance club mastermind, we don't really do a lot of thinking. We take action. And in action, we learned a lot. Okay. And then in action, we make mistakes, which we then adjust. Or sometimes we don't even make mistakes. We have successes without because the moons and the stars line up for us. Okay. So number one, too much thinking. The more you learn, the more you're going to think, which is the biggest trap, the biggest pit. And all these real estate gurus, the traveling sales pitches, they know this. Okay. The more I teach you about a subject to, the more questions you're going to have. The more I teach you about fix and flip, the more questions you're going to have. The more I teach you about landlording, the more questions you're going to have. And I don't want to have you think. I want you to cash checks. And that's why you should join me at Mr. No Fluff at my profit sharing, which is just $83 a month, where we help you do deals in your backyard, usually with spending no money in marketing. Okay. So that's step number one. Now let's go to step number two. But before I forget, I want to let you guys know that I have all my courses right now at 50% plus off at MrNoFluff.com because I hit 11,000 subscribers on YouTube. Thank you guys. Much love to you. Okay. So what is number two? Idea or action that makes investors fail? Well, it's the lack of action. Why? Because they're thinking too much. So problem number one is the most important one because you're thinking too much. I'm gonna wait for this card to pass real quick. So the problem number one is you're thinking too much, which leads to problem number two, which is no action. Okay. Now there's a lot of action in the learning process, but there's no action between coming to the mat and sweating, coming to the mat and getting down. What does that mean? Okay. Well, most of my students, for example, spend a lot of energy, for example, in one sector, how to find motivated sellers. But they never take the action to actually go find these motivated sellers. Okay. Or another example is my students want to know, well, Mike, how do you do a subject to deal? How do you do a fix and flip? How do you do this? But they never take action to go get themselves a deal. So the problem number two, which makes most new real estate investors fail, is no action or not enough action. Okay. Now, problem number three. Okay. And let me say that all these problems does not have credit, money, or resources involved. These are all psychological aspects. Okay. What do I mean? Well, you don't need to have a good credit. You don't need to have a lot of money to do real estate. There's different parts of real estate you can do that doesn't require credit or money, or you can use other people's money or other people's credit. But that's above the point. Okay, I just got a text. I got to get out of here, but let me make my last point. Okay. The last point, what holds many of my students back is that they're scared to fail. Okay. They don't want to fail. So they do too much thinking. Therefore, they don't take action because they have so much fear of failing. And I just summarize it for you, ladies and gentlemen. What do I mean by too much fear? Well, they think that, hey, if I do my first deal, I might only make 10%. I might only make 20% in equity or cash flow or wholesaling it or $10,000 or $20,000. I might not hit the home run, or I might not, you know, do X or Y. I might just even break even. Okay. But what I try to teach my students is that you're better off doing a deal and breaking even and not making any money than not ever doing a deal. Because by you doing a deal and breaking even, you just got free education, which is going to help you do deal number two. More importantly, if you look at every college out there, you have to spend thousands of dollars, okay, to go learn something. So if you're in the field, in the trenches, and you do your first deal and you break even, dude, that's awesome. Even if you go negative a little bit, that's way better than getting into debt $50,000 for college, right? So think about how much college costs you, okay? So, but what I find out is most of my students, when they do a deal, their first deal, they actually make surplus. They make money, okay? I don't think I had ever had any student that made no money, break even. But I even tell them, even if you break even, or even if you go negative $1,000, $2,000, you're still way ahead than all these people that spend 30 grand or $5,000 and never did a deal. They read all the books, and I met so many people. There was a lady I was talking to. She's been studying real estate for 14 years. 14 years, never done a deal. She's gone to all the seminars, all the boot camps. She's read all the books, never done a deal. Okay, so she's in stage number one, stage number two, and stage number three. Okay, so what are the stages one more time to recap? Well, too much thinking and thinking about the future, what's going to happen in the future, and not living in the now. Two, lack, which leads to lack of action. And the less you take action, the more your brain's going to think, and you're going to have point number three, which is fear. Okay, one of the fastest way to eliminate the fear is to take action. Okay, and trust me, the more you learn, the more you're going to understand how you're not going to make it. For example, when I graduated college, when I lived in my car, started with $100, I didn't realize how hard it is to start a business. Right, once I turned $100 into three businesses, having rental properties, making millions a year, then I realized how hard it is to start a business with no money. So if I had got that education up front, I would probably never started my own business out of college, living out of my car with $100. Okay. However, because of my ignorance, because I didn't know how hard it is, because I didn't know that it was impossible, as the college professors say, or as the bankers say, or as everyone else says, that you need money to make money. So because I didn't believe that what they told me, because I didn't understand it, I didn't have education, I thought it was possible for me. So my ignorance is what made me successful. So I think there's a writer, I forgot his name, I was blanked out, and he says that if you want to have success, you need two ingredients. One is confidence, and the other one's ignorance. Okay, you got to have that ignorance of not knowing, because the more you know, the more you're gonna realize is why it's not gonna work out for you, and that's the way our system's set up. And you got to have that confidence to just go ahead and do it, no matter you don't know, no matter that you got fear, you're willing to go do it, even if you fail. So if you want to have success as a real estate investor, it's not about reading more books or going to more seminars or putting more stuff between your ears. Those are all very, very important. Okay. But the very first step is what Rumi says, my favorite poem. It says that when you take the first step, which is the most important part, the road will appear. So your very first job is to take the first step. Doesn't matter if you know what to do. Doesn't matter if you have all these questions. Doesn't matter if you have fear. But if you just keep learning, you're going to make a lot of people rich, and it's not going to be you. And if you never take action, you're never going to be your dreams. If you allow your fears to just make you learn, make you realize you don't know X and Y and Z, right? And all the possibilities that can go wrong, then you're never going to be your dreams. You got to be humble and say, look, I don't know what's going on, but I'm going to take the first step. Yes, I know I'm going to fail. So what? I'll pivot, I'll adjust because that's how it is, right? And many people don't want to fail because our school system has brought us into, hey, you don't want to fail, you want to get that A, you don't want to be a B, you don't want to be a C. But entrepreneurship doesn't work like that. Entrepreneurship works as you don't know, you take risks. Now, I'm not talking about entrepreneurship where you go borrow a bunch of money for bankers because then you don't have to have the skills. Okay. I'm talking about true entrepreneurship where you bootstrap, you don't borrow any money. You use your imagination. You use your creativity to be your dreams. Those ways is where the true entrepreneurs all over the world, and including America, have changed the world. Okay? Not through prerequisites. Guys, thanks for watching. Click the like button. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you think about Bitcoin. Do you have any Bitcoin and what state you're in, guys? And if you're new, join my profit sharing where I hold your hand. Doesn't matter if you're in New York, you're in California, and I help you do flipping houses in your backyard. I show you how to find these people totally for free. Help you negotiate. I help you structure your deals, and I even will buy your deals. Now, if I don't want your deals, then I'll help you find an in-cash buyer through my coaching program. And guess what? You don't pay me a lump sum of money, 50 grand or 25 grand like all the other guys do, unless you're cashing checks. When you cash checks, that's when I get paid. It's called profit sharing coaching. You can find it at mrnofluff.com. Thanks so much. Have a great day, guys.